Welcome to the channel Dewdear Academy. In this video, I am going to discuss an important question. Which among the following is not a cutaneous reflex? Options: plantar reflex, patellar reflex, gluteal reflex and abdominal reflex. The correct answer here is option B, patellar reflex. So the correct answer is option B, patellar reflex. So we will discuss the question and the options in detail. So first is, here we should know what is cutaneous reflex. Mainly the reflexes can be, we can divide the reflexes into two types, that is superficial or cutaneous reflexes and deep tendon or somatic reflexes. So what are reflexes? Reflexes means they are the involuntary rapid responses to the stimulus. Reflexes are the responses to the stimulus, involuntary and rapid response to stimulus that helps the body to maintain the homeostasis, and it also helps in responding to the changes in the environment. So there are mainly two types of reflexes. One is cutaneous reflexes, or we will call it as superficial cutaneous or superficial reflexes. And the second one is deep tendon or somatic reflexes. Deep tendon reflexes, or we will call it as the somatic reflex. So these are the different types of reflexes. So what is this superficial reflexes or cutaneous reflexes? These are the reflexes which are elicited by gentle stimulation of the skin. Gentle stimulation of the skin. If there is any, generally we are stimulating the skin or the mucous membrane, that causes the cutaneous or the superficial reflexes. Okay, gentle stimulation of the skin or mucous membrane. So that will be resulting in a motor response from the underlying muscles. So that is the cutaneous reflexes. We can give some examples, like the first one is the plantar reflex. Plantar reflex. Plantar reflex means when we are stroking the sole of the foot, the lateral sole of the foot, that will be causing the toes flexion, the flexion of the toes. If the lateral sole of the foot is stroked, it will be causing toe flexion. So that is a plantar reflex. That is known as the plantar reflex. Stroking the lateral sole of the foot causes toe flexion, and that is a normal response in adult. The plantar flexion, we can say, that is a normal response in adult. Another example is abdominal reflex. Abdominal reflex. What is abdominal reflex? When the skin of the abdomen is stroked, that causes the contraction of the abdominal muscles. That is abdominal reflex. If there is any stroking, if someone is stroking the skin of the abdomen, that causes the contraction of the abdominal reflex. We have another reflex also, that is cremasteric reflex. Cremasteric reflex, that is also an example of cutaneous or superficial reflex. That is cremasteric reflex. What is cremasteric reflex? It means stroking the inner thighs of males. It causes the cremaster muscles to contract, that result in raising the testicles. That is cremasteric reflex. That means stroking inner thigh of males causes the cremaster muscles to contract and it raises the testicles. So these are the different examples of superficial or cutaneous reflex. Then next we have to discuss, or we are going to discuss, what are deep tendon reflexes or the somatic reflexes. The reflexes that involve the stimulation of the tendons. Deep tendon or deep reflexes, we will say that it results in the contraction, in the stimulation of the tendons. There will be stimulation of tendons, and that leads to contraction of a corresponding muscle. Stimulation of tendons leads to contraction of the corresponding muscles. So they are mediated by the spinal cord, and they are used to assess the integrity of the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So we can give the examples here. One is the patellar reflex. Patellar reflex, or we will say knee jerk. Patellar reflex or knee jerk. So what we can see here is, tapping the patellar tendon, it causes the contraction of the quadriceps muscles. So if the particular tendon is stimulated, that results in a corresponding that results in the contraction of the corresponding muscles. Here it is the quadriceps muscle. Another one is Achilles reflex. Achilles reflex means tapping the Achilles tendon causes the contraction of the calf muscles. So if the Achilles tendon is contracted, is being stimulated, that results in contraction of the calf muscles. Then we have biceps reflex. Biceps reflex means tapping the biceps tendon. It causes the biceps muscles to contract. If the biceps tendon is stimulated or tapped, that causes the biceps muscles to contract. Another one is the triceps reflex. Triceps reflex means if the triceps tendon is stimulated or tapped, it causes the triceps muscles to contract. So these are the different types of examples. So from here the question, the plantar reflex, the first option is the plantar reflex. So that is the stimulation, or just if the lateral sole of the foot is stimulated, that will be resulting in the toe flexion and all. So this is an example of a superficial reflex. Patellar reflex means the knee jerk reflex. That means if there is any stimulation of the patellar tendon, that result in the stimulation of the muscles associated with that. So that is a deep tendon reflex. So this is the answer which is not considered as a cutaneous reflex, because patellar reflex is an example of deep tendon or somatic reflex. Then next is the gluteal reflex and also the abdominal reflex. These are all coming in the category of cutaneous or superficial reflexes. These are all cutaneous reflexes or superficial reflexes, because these are all associated with the gentle stimulation of the skin in the gluteal region or in the abdominal region, that leads to the contraction of the muscles associated with that. So these are the cutaneous reflex, and the plantar reflex is also a cutaneous reflex, because that is the stimulation of the lateral sole of the foot. But patellar reflex is associated with the stimulation or tapping of the patellar tendon, leads to the contraction of the muscles associated with that. So that is a deep tendon reflex, or we can say that is